Well, hello. After stops in Denver and Phoenix, the Reds' second West Coast road trip continues in sunny Southern California. That's Petco Park in San Diego, as Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball tonight. Game one of a three-game weekend set, the Reds against the Padres. Hi, hello, and welcome to San Diego, everybody. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch, Jim Day, and our whole crew here in San Diego, I'm George Grand. Well, the Reds, of course, have had one trip already to the West Coast. Started off pretty good, then got rough. The second trip, they've got a chance to finish over 500, Chris. It's a big series.
Well, they do, George. A big series because you're playing a team that you think you can match up pretty well against. The Padres have the third worst record in the National League, and they, like the Reds, got off to a horrible start. The Reds got off to a 7-22 start. The Padres almost as bad. 110, they lost 17. They've turned it around in May, and so have the Reds.
One of the reasons why the Padres have turned it around in May is because of a big rookie, Christian Villanueva. He has no doubt the big bat, Chris. 15 home runs in the first month plus of the season.
Well, he can drop the hammer. There's no question about that. He's a guy that likes the ball about thigh high, and if you can hit him in this ballpark, you can hit him just about anywhere. He's got plenty of power to spare. He's a guy certainly in the lineup that you want to be careful about. Obviously, with Villanueva in there, a good young prospect. I think that they're thinking he's going to be around there at third base for a long, long time. But Tyler Mahle's a guy that likes that ball up in the zone. It'll be a pretty good challenge for Villanueva tonight to catch up with that high four-seam fastball.
These are two teams that rely on some young pitching, and Tyler Mahle certainly is one of the Reds' bright young prospects.
Well, he is, and don't be dissuaded at all by the record that he has out there right now, or maybe the tough time that he may be going through recently. I really think in the long run, Mahle's going to be a very fine Major League pitcher. 4 runs in each of the last 3 starts. You know, you turn the page and put that behind you if you're Tyler Mahle. He's pitching very close to home. He's from up the coast here, outside of Los Angeles. You're going to have a lot of family and friends here. It ought to be a big night for Tyler.
You talk about the Reds starting slow. So did Joey Votto, but he's been heating it up, Chris. 7-game hitting streak like that.
All of a sudden, that batting average is inching closer and closer and closer to 300. And 11 for 25. And these aren't blue pits either. These are line drives all over the ballpark. Quick bat, confidence at the plate. This is the Votto we expect to see.
That's the Votto we expect to see. And we've got the Jim Day we expect to see coming up next. It's the end of the month of May, into the month of June. We'll review the month to remember. JD is next on Fox Sports Ohio.
dealers. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good, it's Skyline time. First of three in Paradise, San Diego, California. How about this double duo, dynamic duo of Suarez and Jeanette? IGS bringing the energy. Coming out of May, both candidates for Player of the Month in the National League. Suarez, first Reds third baseman with 8 or more home runs and 29 or more RBI in a single month since at least 1920. And Jeanette, second time with the Reds to have an 8 or more home run month. 24 more RBIs, that incredible June of last year, and he's the only Reds second baseman in team history to do so. And speaking of coming out of the month of May, tonight we'll count down those top moments of May, and we will start it right here, and we'll start with moment number 5. Who doesn't love the silent treatment in baseball? Jesse Winker, May 24th. Versus Pittsburgh, his first home run of the season, and he notices that his teammates are going to big league him, so he goes right down the stairs, and then, of course, does the air fives to himself. Even Sal Romano big leagued him right here. Oh, psych. The silent treatment. Nothing better. Finally, Votto steps up, and they congratulate him on his first home run of the season. 3 cities. It's been a long Western swing. It's the first of 3, Padres and Reds, and together again. George Graham and Chris Welch standing by with their play-by-play here on Fox Sports Ohio.
California. Hey, not many days that aren't here. And the Reds and Padres ready to roll it out for the weekend series. Let's check Jim Riggleman's starting lineup. 17-22 since taking over as the interim manager. Giving a shake of a hand to some fans of Jim Riggleman. Remember, he was a manager here back a few years ago. Here's the Reds starting batting order. Jesse Winker back in the leadoff spot. The rotation continues in the leadoff spot. Tucker Barnhart batting number 2. Joey Votto with that 7-game hitting streak in the number 3 spot. And 2 guys who had tremendous months of May, as Jim just talked about. Scooter's in the 4th spot. Eugenio Suarez is hitting 5th. Scott Schebler back in right field. He'll hit 6th. Jose Peraza at short. Tyler Mahle, the pitcher, bats 8th. And Billy Hamilton, the center fielder, will bat in the number 9 position. Well, another young pitcher making his major league debut against the Cincinnati Reds. Big 6'6", 245-pound Jacksonville, Florida native, 24-year-old Walter Lockett. Chris?
At one time, Andrew Walter Lockett was one of the brightest stars on the up-and-coming through the Padre organization. Then he was beset by injury after injury. He basically lost a couple of different seasons to a variety of injuries, including a back injury. So he kind of came off the radar a little bit. Not overpowering. He's not going to light up the radar gun. He's going to use his fastball a lot, and he's got a curveball that he depends on quite a bit as well. So that's the basic makeup of Lockett as you see him right here, getting a chance to pitch in the major leagues for the very first time.
Well, the Reds know the story of young pitching, and it's a similar story for this Padres club. Lockett's debut today. He'll be the 5th starting pitcher to have debuted with the Padres for Andy Green, the manager there out of Kentucky. That's in the 2017 season. And since the start of the 17 season, Lockett joins Lamet, Lloyd, Lucchesi, and Lauer as rookie pitchers to make their debuts. Entering the game, the Padres' 17 players to make their MLB debuts in 17 isn't as much as the Reds. The Reds have used 22 players making their debuts since 2017. Here's Jesse in at 245. A homer, 12 knocked in, and when you add it all up, a roller coaster first month and a half of the season, but the bottom line is he leads National League rookies in walks and outfield assists while ranking among rookie leaders in on-base percentage and a number of the hitting categories. He slices this one into foul territory. Over to glove it is the second baseman Corey Spangenberg. Let's check your forward defensive alignment for this Padres team. The Padres come in 4th in the league defensively with 32 errors on the season. Jose Pirela, last year's player of the year. Travis Jankowski, great speed in center field. Hunter Renfroe back off the disabled list in right field. There's Villanueva at 3rd. Freddy Galvis over from Philadelphia. Solid defensive shortstop. Spangenberg rotates at 2nd. And the big guy Eric Hosmer's over at first base. Hosmer's won 3 Gold Gloves. He's solid. And Rafi Lopez is behind the plate. So there's Haas, Chris. So we've seen a lot of him over the years. They brought him here to be a leader and to hit. He's doing both.
Well, he was a late sign, George. He was looking for a place to play, and it seemed like every major league team that could have used Hosmer just didn't come out and make an offer to him. Finally, he ended up signing a contract here in San Diego. And, you know, you need that kind of depth if you're going to eventually compete.
8 years, $144 million. They brought him here to be a leader, and they put him at first. That means that Will Myers, who had been in the outfield, then at first, is now back in the outfield again. Myers on the disabled list right now. They hope to get him back soon. Tucker Barnhart at 261 with the 3 homers and 14 knocked in. That's a little high, just above the strike zone. 3 balls and 1 strike to the Reds catcher. And another move for the Reds this week. Kurt Casale takes over. Cruz is gone, Chris. A little bit of a surprise with the backup catching situation.
Well, he did a nice job when he got a chance, George. Of course, a backup to Tucker Barnhart, not quite as much as being a backup to Yadier Molina, which is Cruz's, you know, a history. But he did a nice job here. He had a big home run the other day for the Reds, and I was a little surprised by the move, but I think the Reds are trying to improve their depth at catcher. This is probably one of the program moves that they're going to do.
There's Kurt Casale, the new backup catcher. There's a bouncer down to second. And there's 2 away as Barnhart bounces out. And here comes Joey, 7-game hitting streak. That average at one point down in the low 220s after the month of May wrapped up. He's back up to 295. 6 homers and 24 knocked in on the season. That 7-game hitting streak, the longest active streak for the Reds. And that includes a couple of 2-hit games. Wednesday had a 3-hit game in Arizona, and the Reds left on a bright note from Arizona, didn't they?
Well, they did. I mean, it could have been really a very bad game, but they ended up having a pretty good game on their getaway day and managed to get something out of that series. Overall, not a good trip to Arizona because they ran into an Arizona team that when they got there, it was a really scuffling team. They had won, I think, 2 of the last 15 games they played. But boy, did they ever find their offense against the Reds pitching in the first 2. Reds finally got the last and getaway game. 1
ball, 1 strike to the Reds first baseman. That breaking ball drops in there for a strike. The right hand pumped in the air by home plate umpire Paul Nauert. Lance Barksdale is down at first. Scott Barney is your second base umpire, and Carlos Torres is over at third. Scott Barry, rather, is your second base umpire. Votto just gets a piece to stay alive. Fouled off, and it glances off the outside of the hand of Lopez, Rodney Lopez, who gets the catching assignment for tonight. A.J. Ellis, our old friend, used to be with the Dodgers, now here in San Diego, has been doing most of the catching. Hedges is on the disabled list. They hope to get Hedges back soon. There's A.J. Good guy to have in a club, Chris. Boy, leader and runs a pitching staff well. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Votto with Scooter Gennett on deck. That's way up high.
Well, you see what they're trying to do with Votto is pitching that four-seam fastball upstairs. Now, Lockett is not the kind of pitcher to blow you away upstairs, but he has to command that top of the zone. They're just trying to give Votto a chance to get himself out.
And Joey's bounced back to stretch it out to a 3-2 count. And Joey will take a walk. So the numbers continue to impress. He's reached base safely in 49 of his last 57 games. And that's the stamp of Joey Votto. 2 pretty good first basemen reuniting down there. Hosmer and Votto. Hosmer, great respect for Joey Votto, and Votto likewise for the big first baseman from Kansas City, who's got a World Series ring and trophy on his mantle. And now here in San Diego. Here's Scooter. 343, 10 homers, 36 knocked in. He's been player of the week twice in the month of May, and Chris, all the media people got their tabulations for the month of May, and he may very well be the player of the month in the month of May in the National League.
There are some pretty good candidates, but I think the Scooter, he would get my vote.
Which is an important vote in the Welch household.
I mean, he's won so many things here in the month of May. I asked him today, and I saw him in the clubhouse. I said, what did you win today, Scooter? Because I know you won some kind of an award today. He said, I talked to my wife today, and she's very happy. I said, well, that's...
Take the garbage out.
That's the winner.
1 ball, 1 strike with Votto off first. Dribbled. Lockett has it. He'll shovel it to first, and that'll take care of the Reds. A walk, a runner left. Tyler Mahle will get the baseball to face Travis Jankowski next. Petco Park. Let's check Andy Green's starting lineup for this Padres team. Over 500 for the month of May at 15 and 13. They've been rotating everybody in the leadoff spot. Travis Jankowski will be there today. Eric Hosmer moved up to the number 2 spot. Jose Pirela, last year's player of the year for the Padres, hits third. Christian Villanueva with the 15 home runs behind him. Spangenberg, Hunter Renfroe, big home run power for him. Rafi Lopez behind the plate. Freddy Galvis hits 8th, and Walter Lockett will make his debut on the mound and with the bat here tonight. That's your Padres batting order. And here's Tyler Mahle for the Reds, Chris.
One of the calling cards of Mahle is his command. That left him temporarily, at least his last start when he pitched against the Colorado Rockies. He walked 4 in that ball game. He was not involved in a decision. Ended up being a 6-5 Reds win.
Now one peek at this leadoff hitter, Travis Jankowski. You'll think it's Bronson Arroyo in a brown uniform. Looks a lot like Bronson, the way he moves and runs, and got a haircut so his hair isn't quite as long as Bronson's used to be.
I think Bronson wishes he could have run that fast. He'd have been a pretty good two-way player.
Arroyo, of course, a shortstop. Bronson in high school down in Florida. Jankowski, outstanding football and baseball player in high school as well. And right through the big hole on the left side. It's a base hit for Travis Jankowski. So the leadoff hitter on. Let's check your forward defensive alignment for the Reds. Cincinnati comes in 9th in the league with 34 errors on the season. Jesse Winker starts for the 15th time in left. He's started 24 times in right. Billy Hamilton in center and Scott Schebler back in right. Infield, Eugenio Suarez, Peraza, Scooter Gennett, and Votto per usual for the Reds. And Tucker Barnhart, the Gold Glove catcher behind the plate. That's your forward defensive alignment. And there's Jesse, who's played more often than not in right 24 times. This start in left here tonight against the Padres. Here's Eric Hosmer. Hosmer's average slowly climbing up to 282, 6 homers and 24 knocked in. Jankowski will steal a base. He stole an 8 of 10 on the season. Padres have been running more, and just like Jim Riggleman taking over for the Reds, Andy Green has been, in fact, in one game he squeezed twice, once a safety squeeze, once a regular squeeze, and also sent lookout. The swing by Hosmer, and the bat goes past the dugout all the way down the first base line, and Joey Votto will retrieve it for him. That's a Dave Winfield toss, Chris.
That's about the longest that I've seen this year.
Nobody did it like Winnie, but this is about as close as you'll see to a Winfield toss.
Well, the San Diego County Fair just opened today. It's open from now until July the 15th, just up around the Del Mar racetrack. And if there is a bat throwing competition, Hosmer automatically goes to the finals.
See, I thought Jim Day was going to give us that tidbit before you. You beat him to it today.
Yep. I'm doing my homework up there where the surf meets the turf.
That's it, where the surf meets the turf. Hey, you know, San Diego Chamber of Commerce could hire you. 1 ball, 1 strike to Hosmer. That delivery is wide. Do you chalk it up to the difficulty that Mahle had in Denver, is pitching in the Mile High City, first time there, or do you think there's something wrong mechanically?
I don't think there's anything wrong mechanically. I think there's 2 things going on, George. One, he's a young pitcher making his way through the major leagues for the very first time. And there are a lot of guys his age that are still trying to get out of A-ball and AA. So he's been rocketing through the Reds farm system. You know, the only time he's had a losing record in his entire minor league history is when, except for his first year as a rookie ball, we can't really talk about that, but you know, it's when you finally get to AAA, and he was rushed to AAA, one of the youngest guys in the entire league. So he's still learning. He's learning about command. He's learning about what guys can hit, pitching to scouting reports. And I think you're going to have some bumps in the road along the way.
Facing a hot batter here on this homestand. Hosmer's at 452, hits it hard down to second. 4-6, yes sir, E3. The ground ball when he needed it. Peraza and Scooter Gennett combined to give the Reds their 52nd double play of the season and the base runner erased.
You know, George, I used to call this a DP lane ground ball, but now I think I'm just going to call it a yes sirree ground ball.
That's a sweet one, isn't it? Hey, you toiled here, Chris. One of the cities you pitched in was here in San Diego, in the old Jack Murphy Stadium, and you were more of a fly ball pitcher, but when you could get that, you'd love it.
Well, you know, especially when I had Ozzie Smith playing behind me.
Not bad. Because you were here, you weren't here for the Randy Jones era. Here's Pirella. You were in the Juan Eichelberger and Eric Shaw era.
You know, one of the first things I did, though, when we ran, by the time I got here into San Diego, Randy Jones was a New York Met, but the first thing I did was I sought him out one day during batting practice to talk about throwing that sinking fastball. He was an amazing guy.
Fly ball to center. Billy takes care of it. So Malley gives up a hit, but still has a 1-2-3. Suarez to the plate when we return. Another starter making his first career start against the Reds. And you know, you think Chris just plays golf or goes to the beach. You were up early and you gave us this stat for Elk and Elk, Chris.
You know, I was wondering, George, because it just seems like the Reds face a lot of young men who are making their first ever starts in the major leagues. And against the Reds, believe it or not, they are 6-1 with a 3.8 earned run average. I mean, that is just amazing. And it really goes against the grain as to what's happened. You know, when you talk about the last 300 starts that major league pitchers have made in their debut, overall the record is 75-113 with a very high earned run average. But the Reds have been instrumental in giving some of these young guys their first ever win, not only their first ever experience in the major leagues.
Now, was that on the fourth hole that you figured that out, or was that before you went to the golf course?
George, you win your bets before you get on the first tee.
Well said for a left-handed golfer. Here's Suarez, followed by Schebler and Peraza. 2 balls and 1 strike. Facing Walter Lockett. Off the end of the bat, dribbled down to short. Freddy Galvis, quick flip, and they get him by half a step. Now, we know very well the story of Joey Votto. Votto played in every game last year. So did the shortstop for the Padres. Last year he was in Philadelphia. Freddie played all 62. One of 5 players to do that, and Eric Hosmer was another one of those. Very solid defensive shortstop, Chris, and a young man who played well in Philadelphia. They made room for him because of 2 shortstops coming up in their organization, but the Padres are happy to have him here. Here's Scott Schebler. Schebler in at 244. 6 homers, 20 knocked in for the Reds right fielder.
Talk about Reds that had a hot month of May, and that's Eugenio Suarez and Scooter Gennett. Different story for Schebler. Hit 320 in April, but 200 in May, and the Reds would love to have him get on the horse again here in June.
Well, I bet he'd like to have that pitch back like that. You know, the Padres put such a shift on him. There's nobody on the left side of the infield that he decided he was going to lay down a bunt, but he was so determined he ended up trying to bunt at a pitch that nearly hit him. In fact, it may have even hit his finger right there. It's hard to change your game plan in the middle of a bat and keep your concentration. And that's what happened there to Schebler.
No balls, 2 strikes. One of the few Reds that's had outstanding numbers against the Padres. Schebler, of course, came up in the Dodger organization, then made his way to Cincinnati. His numbers against the Padres as a Red, very impressive. No balls, 2 strikes. Way high. The smiling scoreboard for the Reds on Wednesday included this big swing, and you talk about launch angle. That's a launch angle swing, Chris.
Well, he's so strong.
That's dribbled in front of the mound. Lockett has it, and there's 2 away. Second
Which
time
you
he's
might
taken
say
care of.
a fully grown strong man hit that ball. Blame it on the bat. I'll tell you, so far so good for Andrew Walker Lockett. Young man that was drafted and brought up through the Padre organization. Signed him out of high school in Jacksonville, Florida. He got the scouts' attention back in Jacksonville when he led his team to the state championships. Threw a complete game in that, and of course he's got a pitcher's body. You described him as being 6 feet 6 inches tall, about 240 pounds. That's big enough to make you a pro prospect in a number of sports.
Been ahead of the Reds batters, and he's ahead here, but Peraza punches this one into right for a base hit. The first hit for the Reds, so a 2-out base hit, and that'll bring up the pitcher Tyler Mahle.
You know, Peraza went through a spot there where he was, you know, doing this regularly and hitting the ball sharply. We've seen him for a couple of years now just be an expert at blooping the ball into right field. I mean, I would say half of his hits over the last 2 years have been little bloopers into right, but now we're seeing him stay back a little bit more authority going the other way. He's very quick on the inside pitch still, but you can see the consistency of what the teams are trying to do to him. Down and away, down and away. When they get ahead, they drop off the breaking ball.
Now a 5-game hitting streak for him. He has stolen 9, so he's a threat to run here. Here's Mahle.
Well, he's no threat to run here because really you got the pitcher up, because if he gets thrown out, then you're leading the next inning off with Mahle, and that's not the ideal way to start the inning.
Tyler 1 for 15 on the season at 125. Slice to the right side. Spangenberg has it. Base hit for the Reds. Nothing to show for it. They strand their second runner.
according to manager Jim Riggleman, was told that he is going to go into the bullpen for the first time in his career. Now, there's some confusion out there as to if and when that message was presented to Homer, because he said today, as he spoke to for the first time publicly, he didn't want to go on camera, but he did speak off camera. Said he wasn't sure of the details of his new role, that it's still up in the air. He was asked, can you be a successful reliever? And his answer was probably not. Now, he's not available tonight. Will he be in the bullpen this weekend? That remains to be seen, but quite frankly, some disheartening comments, and it is a very confusing situation and unfortunate at this point. That's just me talking.
JD, you've watched Homer. We all have since he first came up, signed as a high school player, and first came up, made his major league debut. How would you evaluate, irrespective of what he said, his demeanor and the way he did address the media?
I was a little disappointed, to be honest with you. I know it comes as jarring to Homer. He's been a starter his entire career. He's never been a reliever whatsoever, but he's the worst ERA in the National League, and it's just been a struggle for Homer. And somehow they want to get him right, and you'd like to see him work together on this and not necessarily be divisive. That's what it seems to be right now.
Thanks, Jim. That's Jim Day, of course, always keeping the pulse of the Reds clubhouse. And, you know, Chris, one thing that this is a team that obviously has to improve on a starting pitching staff that currently ranks 15th in the National League with an ERA over 5.5. And when you look at it, part of it is the people that have come up, young pitchers that are trying to learn here at the major league level, but part of it is they've got to get better to be better as a team. And that's certainly something that Jim Riggleman has been put in a position to try to do with this ball club, taking over as the interim manager. And this was an organizational decision, not a managerial decision.
You know, George, when you're trying to rebuild, you can't go from 95 losses to 95 wins in one year. It rarely, if ever, happens. So you need to build baby steps, and along that way, it very much helps if you've got some veterans that can be leaders and really help out along the way. Not only be leaders in the clubhouse, but actually perform on the field. And that was the one area where they had really hoped that Homer Bailey, coming back from injury, having a long time to rehab and get himself ready again, would be a leader on that pitching staff. And I'm sure that there's, you know, disappointment on both ends right now. Homer's probably disappointed in how he's pitching. The organization is disappointed, obviously. But at some point, you've got to ask yourself, you know, we're in here for the team thing, and we've got to figure out a way to move forward, get our young guys innings to pitch and put wins on the board. And you're either going to be part of it or you're not. And basically, it's really up to Homer Bailey and how he pitches will determine that.
There's Corey Spangenberg after Villanueva singles to right. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Spangenberg in at 182. You know, it's ironic as you saw Matt Harvey on the bench, because it was Matt Harvey's situation, a swing and a miss and out number 1, strikeout number 1 for Malley. That was Harvey's situation in New York. They wanted to move him to the bullpen and reconfigure his mechanics and try to get him straightened out. That did not work out. He ended up being traded to the Reds in the deal that sent Devin Mesoraco to New York.
You know, baseball, like a lot of other sports, is a game of adaptation. You know, if one thing isn't working, if you want to survive up here, you do something different. Look, I used this example on the air the other day. Look how many times Bronson Arroyo reinvented himself just to get himself a few extra years in the major leagues. I mean, there was no reason at all that Arroyo should have been pitching when his fastball was 89 miles an hour, but he figured out a way to do it. And, you know, so there are people that can do that, and there are some people that have tried and have failed. But there are opportunities out there. As long as you're getting a ball on a big league mound in a big league game, you have a chance.
1 ball, 1 strike. Malley to Hunter Renfroe. Big home run power for Renfroe. Renfroe, a couple of homers and 11 knocked in. Spent some time on the disabled list with a right elbow problem that he said before the game probably it was a little bit of throwing in the month of March at spring training and then swinging the bat as well. Couldn't really pinpoint any one thing, but boy, when this guy hits it, it stays hit. The question is, how can they get more contact out of him on a regular basis. The 1-2 lined into right, a base hit. Schebler has it. The runner will hold at second. So back-to-back base hits to right with a strikeout in between. And
well, both the base hits are very similar. They're on fastballs that are up, but not up high enough really for the likings of Tyler Mahle. He's a guy that you see where that pitch was at the waist. That should be about the lowest fastball that he throws. From there, he ought to go right up the ladder, especially when he's ahead in the count, and just find out how much a hitter will chase by moving up the ladder a little bit.
So 2 on, 1 out, and here's Rafi Lopez, the catcher, hitting in the 7th spot. He's in at 158, couple of homers, 8 knocked in. Villanueva out at second, not a lot of speed. Renfroe down at first. That's a strike right down the middle. Strike 1. You know, the other part of the Homer Bailey saga, Chris, we talk often about the arm injuries he's had over the last couple of years, and really sometimes it takes you not 1 year but 2 or 3 years to find out how do you pitch with your new arm. I mean, not just how does it feel, but what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and learn how to pitch, not just throw. No balls, 1 strike.
Well, if you're doing that while you're trying to get big league hitters out, you better figure out a way to get them out in the meantime. Because up here, nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody cares if you just came off the disabled list. They don't care if you've got problems at home. They care what you have when they step in the batter's box. Period.
1 ball, 1 strike to Lopez. That's a strike. 1-2. By the way, you saw Matt Harvey. He will go tomorrow for the Reds against Eric Lauer. Luis Castillo is scheduled to go for the Reds on Sunday against Tyson Ross. The start times, by the way, are somewhat odd for this weekend. This is a normal start time tonight, 10:10 Cincinnati time. Tomorrow's start time will be 8:40 Cincinnati time, 5:40 San Diego time. And then on Sunday, it's a 6:10 start, a 3:10 start here in San Diego. They've got a road race in downtown San Diego, so they pushed back the start time till 3:10. 1 ball, 2 strikes. A little zippity-doo on that. 96-mile-an-hour fastball in a great spot. Second strikeout of the inning, and 2 away.
Kind of what I was talking about here with Mahle is, you know, you want to go up that ladder 1 rung at a time, and you see where that pitch is. Just a difference of about 4 or 5 inches in height makes that pitch unhittable versus one that you can, you know, lay the bat head on. And the other thing that you like about Mahle is that he's not afraid to change speeds on the fastball. That last one was the fastest pitch in the at bat, so he's always making the hitter adjust a little bit.
There's Freddy Galvis in at 233, hitting in the 8th spot in the order. Today appearing in his 701st major league game, hit number 700 last night. Left-handed, a 217 hitter, and 265 from the right side is his switch hitter. And we talked about him playing all 162 last year. He started all 59 games this year for the Padres. The most started by any player in Major League Baseball heading into the month of June. No balls, 2 strikes. Peraza behind the runner at second. Eugenio Suarez pulled way wide of the bag down at third. Mahle to the stretch. Here's the 1-2. You've been sitting with this team since Jim Riggleman took over and Danny Darwin took over, Chris, and I've watched the games on TV. The one thing you do see is what you saw right there. Danny Darwin has these guys pitching inside a whole lot more.
Well, he tries to simplify it, and that's one of the big ingredients of being a successful pitcher up here. I mean, if you don't pitch inside, and Freddy Galvis feels a little more comfortable in there, he might have been able to keep that ball fair instead of bailing out while he's swinging. I mean, Danny Darwin comes from the day when a pitcher, you know, would tell you, I want half the plate, but I'm not going to tell you which half it is.
It's funny, before the game I was talking to Trevor Hoffman, the third base coach, and here's a stretch from Malley and the 2-2 delivery. That's hit in the right field, turning around, reaching up is Schebler, and he holds on. Scott Schebler got turned around, held on, and makes a spectacular catch to save 2 runs. That would have plated 2. Schebler, a dandy catch in right. We'll show it again. Schebler saves 2 runs for Malley. True moment later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. What a dandy catch, Chris.
I'll tell you what, especially when you get turned around, this is about athleticism and be able to recover. The ball was hit very hard by Freddy Galvis. It was a humpback line drive, and he knew he had to get back, but when he got back, he was able to pick it back up again after taking his eye off the ball. And that could be a game changer. I mean, even if it's only in the 2nd inning. You know, you give up a couple of runs there, and they play a little add-on, all of a sudden you're out of the ball game. So that's really a dandy defensive play.
There's Billy Hamilton. That ball's a little low, 1 ball and 1 strike to the Red center fielder. 0 for 4 on Wednesday. That ended a 5-game streak for Billy, showing signs of coming out of it a bit. He comes in today at 208. A couple of homers and 14 knocked in for the Red center fielder. Talk about adjustments, Chris. You say it as a pitcher, but also as a hitter. Really no longer in the leadoff spot. He's been spending most of the time down in the number 9 spot in the order. And you know, he'd like to be the leadoff hitter on this ball club. And the Reds would love that he'd take over that role. But at 208, not able to do that. He fouls that one off his foot. Right off the top of the lead foot. Full count, 3-2. All right, Lockett, the big tall right-hander on the mound. See if Billy will be off and running with his 9 stolen bases. And the Reds in Fox Sports Ohio would like to send out a couple of very special happy birthday wishes for you tonight. Mary Robbins from Portsmouth, Ohio, currently living in Show Low, Arizona, turned 93 today. And Mary Vogler Black, also from Ohio, celebrating her 102nd birthday. Happy birthday, Mary. Happy birthday, Mary. And we say hi to everybody down in Portsmouth, of course, the home of our beloved Gene Bennett and the Bennett family. Still in our memories and always with us.
Well,
one of the great Reds.
You know, the Gene Bennett baseball tournament is coming up in not too long, George. It's always one of the biggest things that happened down there in Wheelersburg and area right along that river. With a whole bunch of little towns involved, but that Gene Bennett tournament is one of the highlights of early summer.
Here's Jesse Winker, popped up to second first time up. Down at first, Freddie Benavidez, the first base coach, with his hand on Billy Hamilton's shoulder, peers across the infield at Billy Hatcher, who rolls through some signs for the Reds. A little bit bigger lead for Hamilton. He's going. The throw will be wide, and safe at second is Billy with stolen base number 10.
Well, a nothing ball game. I mean, it is major rookie mistake here by walking the number 9 hitter, who happens to be Billy Hamilton. I mean, you don't give Rodney Lopez even a prayer of throwing Hamilton out there with the big slow delivery that Lockett has towards home plate. Don't be surprised to see him swipe third base here sometime in this inning.
Villanueva pulled wide of the bag with Winker, the left-hand hitter, at the plate. Swing and a miss at a ball in the dirt, and it's 1-2.
I'm really impressed actually so far on the 3-pitch mix that Walker Lockett has been able to throw up there. You know, I didn't hear much about his changeup. He's thrown a couple of very good ones to get outs. And his breaking ball's not a bad pitch either.
From the stretch, Lockett peers at Hamilton, and here's his delivery. That's way high. I've been doing the AAA World Series at the end of every baseball season, and 2 years ago, Walter Lockett came through the Padres system, 4 different levels of minor league baseball, and he made it to the AAA World Series pitching the championship game for El Paso. That's hit hard down to first. They'll take a look at third, but no way they've got a chance to get Hamilton. So ground ball to the right side, gets the runner over to third, and with 1 out, there's a runner at third for Tucker Barnhart. And you know what it's like, Chris. You've been in the postseason in minor league baseball. You're exhausted by the time you get to the end of a season, and the Rod Barajas, the manager, really used every pitcher he had. So it was Walter Lockett, who was only at that point 21 years of age, had pitched at 4 levels starting in rookie ball all the way up. They had him start the championship game. He gave up 3 runs in the first, then settled down and pitched shutout, no-hit baseball for the next 5 innings. As it turned out, Scranton Wilkes-Barre won the game, beating El Paso, but Walter Lockett showed Rod Barajas, his manager, and Brownswell Patrick, his pitching coach, a whole lot on that day. Now, since that time, the last 2 years, he's been bothered by some nagging injuries.
Yeah, he's had a back injury that's kept him really off the prospect radar for the Padres. In this at bat, though, Tucker Barnhart should expect to see a real good pitch to hit right here. I mean, you got Joey Votto in the on-deck circle. We got a runner at third base. There's no way that he wants to face Votto with 2 runners on, does he?
Dribbler down to first. That'll get the run in. So an RBI for the Reds catcher, and the Reds take a 1-0 lead here in the third.
That's a pretty little ball right there. You got a walk to lead the inning off, a stolen base, a little ground ball to first to move him to third, and then a tapper again to first base to bring him in. I was a little surprised in that situation that the Padres were not playing the infield in a little bit to try to cut him off at the plate, but yeah, maybe they're confident that they're going to get a couple of runs off of Malley.
Padres, who had been struggling offensively, have hit well on this homestand. They finally come out of their doldrums.
Different teams play that differently. I mean, some teams will play that infield in. They don't want to give you one run at any time, no matter what. Tony La Russa was like that when he managed the Cardinals and managed the Oakland A's and managed the White Sox the same way. And some managers are going to say, well, you know what, I don't want a big inning. I don't want to make a decent hitter into a great hitter. I don't want to make a great hitter into an automatic Hall of Fame pitcher by bringing the infield in at the edge of the grass.
These are two managers that are very similar, even though they've had different careers. Andy Green, native of Lexington, Kentucky, went to the University of Kentucky. Still holds a lot of the offensive records there, but he was a scrappy ball player, playing for Keith Madison. And Jim Riggleman's the same way. Jim Riggleman fought his way through as a minor leaguer most of his career, and they'll hit and run, they'll squeeze, they'll double steal, they'll do things like that, and we've seen certainly a difference in the Reds' approach since that. So Votto walks for the second time. He's been on base twice. Hey, Reds fans, come on down to Great American Ballpark on Saturday, June the 16th for the Luke Bryan What Makes Your Country Tour, featuring Sam Hunt. Get your tickets today, reds.com/Luke Bryan. That's June 16th, the Luke Bryan concert. Hope you join us at the ballpark. So Votto's on with 2 away. Here's Scooter, bouncer down to second. Spangenberg has it. And that takes care of the Reds, but a walk, a stolen base, a ground ball, out, and the Reds lead at 1-0.
May 9th versus the Mets, Adam Duvall. 10th inning off of A.J. Ramos' first career walk-off home run, and you take him how you can get him. How about on May 19th? Billy Hamilton with a walk-off walk. Justin Wilson, third walk in the 11th inning. A couple of walk-off wins for the Reds. Moments number 4.
Sometimes little ball does it. The walk started it all today, and the Reds get a run without a base hit. Here we go to the bottom of 3. The pitcher Walter Lockett leads it off. Billy Hamilton gets the Reds on the board, and here's the first at bat for the big tall right-hander. Fastball slammed down the middle. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Malley gave up a base hit in the first to Jankowski, but got out of it with a double play. Gave up 2 hits in the second, but left both runners stranded on a great twisting catch by the right fielder Scott Schebler to end the inning. Full count 3-2. Swing and a miss. There's strikeout number 3 for Tyler Malley. Hey, don't miss Marvel Superhero Night at the ballpark. Cheer on your Cincinnati Reds when they take on the Cardinals for as low as $12. Plus enjoy a post-game fireworks show set to superhero themed soundtrack that's performed live by the Cincinnati Pops. Thanks to Delta Airlines. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Back to the top of the order. Here's Jankowski, who singled in the first and erased on a double play ball. Can't help but recognize, Chris, how this downtown area of San Diego has changed so markedly since you played here in the 80s. And I mean, even during the 90s when we came here and the Reds would play the Padres, not at this ballpark, but at Jack Murphy Stadium. Just there were none of those high rises were around then.
Well, I've changed a lot too.
You've got better. They got bigger.
I don't know about that.
Swing and a miss. You got fond memories from playing out here. Some great teammates, didn't you?
Yeah, great teammates, great place to play. That, you know, back in those days, they were calling San Diego America's next great city. That was the motto, and it has certainly grown into that.
Jack Murphy Stadium was outside the downtown area. Used to stay at the old motels,
Sure,
Town and Country Motel.
How many 2-story hotels do you see around anymore?
That's right. They've all been wiped out for 100-story buildings. Jankowski fouls it off. This park is right in the downtown area. And San Diego now is still one of the few cities in America where the major airport is right downtown. It's also, and there's the Western Metal Supply Company building that was formulated into this ballpark when they built it. Now the 8th largest city in the United States. It continues to get big. And you talk about the airport being down here. Remember the one year where we went extra innings at night, and Gary Wayhoff, the traveling secretary, we all missed the curfew to get out of town. We had to, the game ended about a half an hour before the curfew to get the planes out of town, and everybody was changing in the bus to get to the airport in time to leave town.
Yeah, they had a noise ordinance.
Yep.
We had to keep our voices down during takeoff.
That's a walk to Jankowski. He's on for the second time. Malley's first walk allowed tonight. And you have to be concerned about his stolen base capability. He's stolen 8 of 10. They still have a noise ordinance here, don't they? Yeah, I think it's around 1 o'clock in the morning. I think you can't fly out after 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's Hosmer, bounced into that hard hit double play ball to second. Four-game hitting streak on the line, and boy, he's been red hot on this homestand, hitting 14 of 32 now, over 400. Short lead for Jankowski down at first.
I'm a little surprised really at that lead by Jankowski. He has stolen as many as 30 in a season. And that was, of course, at the major league level. Got his call up to the major leagues a little late in April this year. But, you know, when the first baseman takes a lead off with you, the way Votto is down there, I mean, you'd think a speedster like Jankowski would get even more off. But I think the scouting report on Tucker Barnhart is what's keeping him close. He doesn't want to backpick down there and get to be the end result of a pickoff by one of the better catchers in the league.
Fastball away. That's what Barnhart wants. That's fouled away. You saw reaching in to confirm a sign down at first base. The first base coach, that's former Red Skip Schumacher. Skip, now the first base coach here. What a great teammate. In fact, the Reds came in on Wednesday night. A bunch of the Reds got to the ballpark, got tickets, and sat down behind the Padres dugout and razzed him for most of the night. What a well-respected ball player. And an outstanding leader in every clubhouse he was a part of.
Yeah, the first four pitches of the AB on the outer part of the plate coming in there for a little bit of measure. Now on a 3-2 pitch, you've got to throw a strike.
Down to third. They'll take the long throw to first, get the out, and over to cover the bag is the pitcher Malley. Good job by Malley with the speed of Jankowski. He got to second and had ideas of going to third after the high hopper to Suarez.
You know, that's a play that if you're Jankowski, why not take a shot at it right there? You know, you're asking a guy, Votto, to throw the ball across the infield. He doesn't throw the ball all that long, I mean, distance-wise, very often. And you're also, he's going to have to hit a moving target in Suarez or Malley covering third base. He just doesn't look like he's very aggressive on the base pass right now for a guy that bats in the leadoff spot.
Here's Perella, fly to center first time up. Breaking ball, down and away. Pitch count starting to mount for Malley here in the third inning. 54 pitches already. Four straight batters have had 6 pitches or more in their at bats. Dribbled out in front of the plate. Malley scoops it up, gets the out, and that'll do it. So the walk, but no harm, and the Reds still lead at 1-0 going to the fourth.
First 2007, manager Phil Wellman of the AA Gwinnett Braves, and maybe my favorite tirade of all times, with the grenade. Wellman is now the manager of the Padres AA affiliate in San Antonio, and the Mission's pitchers combined for a no-hitter last night, so no tantrum needed. But that one went on a lot longer than we showed right there. It is a classic.
And of course, before that, he was a Reds minor league manager, one of our favorite guys to be around in spring training, wasn't he?
I was really surprised when I first saw that video, and then actually for the first 99 times I saw that video, I was surprised. You talk about something that went viral. Wow. I do love the part with the rosin bag, though, and the hand grenade. I mean, that's pretty good.
The Weller, Phil Wellman.
Cost him a job.
Yeah. Somehow he continued to get a job, though. Good manager, great baseball guy. Here's Suarez, bounced to short first time up. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Eugenio. That's inside. Here comes the grenade, Chris.
And look where it lands, right at the feet of the home plate umpire. I mean, you couldn't do it any better.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Eugenio Suarez.
You know, there's a few videos out there on YouTube that you go to when you need a good laugh. You know, you're feeling down a little bit. That's one of them. You know, you can play any one of a number of Tommy Lasorda videos that are out there talking about former San Diego Padre Kurt Bavacqua.
Ball 4, Suarez takes a walk. That's the way the third started. Hamilton walked, stole the base, went to third on 1 ground ball and scored on another ground ball. So Lockett walks the first batter he faces here in the 4th. That's his 4th walk of the night. And here comes Schebler. He bounced back to the pitcher back in the 2nd inning. From the stretch, the big right-hander. Changeup. Swing and a miss way out in front of Schebler. Padres will overshift dramatically with the shortstop Galvis almost behind the second base bag. Good job by Schebler. He bluffed a bunt first time up with the overshift. This time he pokes one into left for a base hit. He beats the shift and the Reds have 2 on, nobody out. Good job.
Well, you feed the ball away like that, and you know, I would imagine that Walter Lockett doesn't play for a defense down in El Paso that is going to shift anywhere near as much as they do here in the major leagues. And of course, you're not also hitting or facing hitters that can have a little back control like they have up here at this level.
You know what?
That coupled with the fact that it's the 2nd time around, they've seen him 1 time now, they know what his pitches look like. It gets tougher for the pitcher, and you're going to see the Reds maybe a little bit more, you know, selective at the plate.
There's Peraza, single to right first time up, stretched his hitting streak to 5 straight. Villanueva even with the bag at third. Hosmer off the bag at first. That's inside. Now the other thing that is somewhat amazing with all the overshifting that's been done, while teams overshift, they don't really pitch to the shift. Pitchers will continue to pitch away even if it's a left-hand batter and there's a big hole on the left side.
Yeah.
1 ball, no strikes. High in the air, left center field. Long run, Jankowski. He won't get there. It's 1 hop off the top of the wall. 1 run score. Schebler's running right up the back of Suarez. They're both coming to the plate. They'll score. They've got Peraza caught in a rundown, but he's going to be safe. How about that? The Padres had the pocket picked to Peraza, but they can't get someone to cover the bag, and the Reds, thanks to a Peraza 2-base hit, score 2 and have a 3-0 lead. Now is Peraza okay? He slid into second. He's holding that left leg. Here's another look.
Let's go back to the hit first. I mean, I talked about how powerful he can be when he gets his pitch, which is low and inside. The Padres get it back on a relay right here. And then with the double clutch by Galvis, they figure there's no way you're going to get anybody at home. Let's get the runner hung up between second and third. But they just did not get a chance because nobody covering second base. When they did get a throw over there, it was wild to Galvis, and Peraza gets back.
So Peraza's 2 for 2, picks up 2 runs batted in with that swing, and the Reds lead at 3-0. Here's Malley showing bunt, waves at it for strike 1.
There's that 80% rule again. You know, both runs, or 2 of the 3 runs the Reds have had tonight, have been a leadoff walk. Walk to Suarez started it in this inning.
It looked like the 1988 Olympics with they're running the baton handoff. Schebler almost caught him. Malley fouls that off. Do you keep the bunt on 0-2? And he'll strike out as he fouls off the offering.
And with nobody out, I mean, that's why you keep the bunt on, you know, when you're 0-2 like that. If you have one out, maybe not, because you're going to give your chance maybe for a pitcher to slap the ball, maybe gets a base hit into right field. But that's a little frustrating at bat there for Tyler Mahle and Jim Riggleman. I mean, if you can get that runner to third base, it's a lot easier to get him in. I think eight more ways to score from third than you can from second.
So Mahle, unsuccessful in picking up his fourth sacrifice, strikes out, and here's Billy, who walked last time up and scored on the ground out by Barnhart. So Peraza is still anchored down at second now with one away. That's a strike, 1-1. Peraza turns around and checks the outfield. Jankowski playing deep, so is Perel. In fact, all three of the outfielders playing deeper than you would have thought with Hamilton at the plate. That's foul down the right field line, 1-2. So a base hit should easily score Peraza.
No question about that. The only outfielder I would think that would be playing deep would be the right fielder, because when Billy, anybody in the major leagues gets their pitch and pulls it, you're going to hit it a long way. But opposite field, you want to take away those balls that are hit off the end of the bat, jam shots. You know, challenge the left fielder, challenge him to hit the ball over your head.
Here's the 1-2. Swing and a miss in the dirt, and that's back-to-back strikeouts for Lockett. His first two strikeouts of the night.
He goes with the curveball.
It's funny, we talked about Lockett appearing in the AAA championship game 2 years ago. On that night, his best pitch was his fastball. On this night, Chris, his two best pitches are his breaking ball and his changeup.
I think over the years, George, when you go back to that time, what was that, 2015 you're talking about? He's lost his fastball a little bit because of his back injuries, and he's more had to come back now, kind of trying to get here by command, and his command has been pretty good, except for well, he's had 4 walks, so maybe it's been not as good as he wanted it to be.
Back at the top of the order, Jesse Winker popped up, grounded out 0 for 2. So the Reds had a walk, a single, then the run scoring double, but since then 2 strikeouts, and Peraza still sitting out at second. On the outside corner for a strike, 1-1.
Tell you what, Paul Nauert is calling that marginal pitch for the pitcher tonight. Good night to be out there on the hill.
I see you say that with a smile. I like that. That's 1-1.
I mean, really, why not? I mean, if you know the commissioner comes out and talks about all the speed up programs that they've been talking about and the different things, you know, like the pitch clock and the limiting the number of, you know, visits to the mound and so on. all you really have to do is call the marginal pitch a strike early in the count.
So I'm with
and
you
you'll
on
speed
that.
the game up.
I'm with
No
you.
one complains about a first pitch strike. That pitch right there to Jesse Winker could have gone either way, but he calls it a strike and it makes it a 1-1 count. There was no complaining by Winker. There'd be no complaining by anybody. Now, I'd hate to see a hitter get rung up on a pitch that wasn't a strike, but early in the count, let's get it going.
3 balls, 1 strike to Winker. Fouled off. You know, when you pitch, Chris, of course, there was no Quest Tech. There was no video of every single pitch. And
there was no
every,
TV.
There was very little TV. You had film then, didn't you? But
it's slideshows.
it was not odd for you to hear Doug Harvey or Harvey Wendelstedt say, "Men, let's swing the bats today."
That's right.
And everything on the corner was a strike, and the games would be a lot quicker. Hit hard, but foul down the first base line.
Well, there's always been an effort by umpires to keep the game going. A lot of times you look in there at home plate and you see an umpire clapping his hands. Now he's not clapping for one team or another. He's not applauding an individual effort on the field. He's telling these guys, let's go. Let's get in the batter's box. Come on, catcher. Let's get down in a squat. Come on, pitcher. Get on the hill here. Let's go.
Different era, certainly. Full count 3-2 to Winker. Peraza out at second with 2 away here in the 4th. The Reds scored a run without a hit in the 3rd. Billy Hamilton scored here in the 4th. A walk to Suarez, Schebler's single, and a double by Peraza's made it 3-0. And that's the 2nd walk in the inning. Wow, that's the 5th walk of the night, and another name from the past, Chris, when you talk about walks in a major league debut. Steve Arlen, 5 walks in a major league debut. That's tied by Walter Lockett here tonight.
Well, I think you know what happens is that he kind of breezed through the order the first time through, and then the Reds touch him up a little bit. Now you're pitching away from contact, and you know you find yourself really not wanting to get a pitch in there. You begin to give the hitters a lot of credit that they may or may not deserve.
Robbie Erlin starting to loosen in the bullpen for the Padres.
All I can tell you is that 2 of the 3 runs have reached base via the base on balls.
There's Tucker. Tucker's infield ground out plated the 1st. That was an inning ago. Padres were undecided on who would make this start today, whether it would be somebody on the major league roster. Brian Mitchell was one of the candidates, the right-hander who was acquired from the Yankees. They opted to bring Lockett up from the minor leagues to make his major league debut. And the Reds in a similar situation. When you have young pitching, you're mixing and matching and trying to find a way to do the best that you can for your team, but also the best that you can for your young pitchers. And Andy Green, just like Jim Riggleman, in a similar situation. 1 ball, 1 strike. Lockett from the stretch. Hits the top end of the strike zone, and it's 1-2. You have to figure with Votto on deck that this will be Lockett's last batter if he does not retire Barnhart. Joey making some friends here in Southern California. 2-2. Lockett walked 1 in the first, 2 in the third, and 2 more here in the 4th inning. Tied again, 2 balls, 2 strikes to the Reds catcher. That's a ball bouncing past the pitcher into center field. That'll get Peraza home, and the Reds will have runners at first and third, bringing Votto to the plate. Lockett just missed getting a glove on it, and Spangenberg also just missed knocking it down. If he knocks it down, he probably saves a run.
Well, he picked on ball 4, did Tucker Barnhart. I mean, that ball right down around the shoe tops.
Well, out comes the manager, and that'll be it for Walter Lockett. Andy Green on his way out. Barnhart delivers his 16th run batted in, 2 of them tonight. And as Lockett leaves, time for our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. Home screen icons and features such as the MLB.TV game of the day, pitch tracking and game highlights, live radio broadcast, stats, news, and a whole lot more. Download MLB At Bat today. Stay up to date on the Reds all season long with MLB At Bat. Well, Walter Lockett exits here with 2 outs in the 4th inning. He walks 5, and of the 5, 3 of them scored. Robbie Erlin will take over his 17th appearance, Chris.
Well, and 2 of those appearances have been as a starter, and that's one reason why his earned run average is over 4. Absolutely lit up as a starter, but he's been really solid out of the bullpen.
Runners at first and third and 2 away. Erlin to the stretch. Here's Votto. Joey has walked twice tonight. Breaking ball down and away. Hit hard. Gloved by the first baseman Hosmer, and Rob Votto of extra bases and get the final out of the inning. But a walk to Suarez, a single by Schebler, and the double by Jose Peraza gave the Reds a 3-0 lead. The base hit by Barnhart makes it 4-0 Cincinnati.
On this road trip at Colorado, bases loaded, nobody out. Votto coming to the plate. Tony Cruz just makes the out in time, and then a liner to Jeanette and a double play to end the game. A hard hit ball. That's the tough luck of baseball if you're the Rockies, but the Reds got out of that. Bases loaded, no out jam, and won 6-5.
Of the month of May for the Reds, certainly a roller coaster, and a roller coaster of emotions too. I mean, there have been some very difficult nights, but some nights of elation too. It's been a bizarre first couple of months, hasn't it? Amazing. Joey Votto, 7-game hitting streak, 0 for 1 here tonight with the 2 walks. Here's Tyler Mahle. Villanueva singled his first time up. For Villanueva, he's been a big cog in this power position of the lineup with those 15 home runs. Started off so slow. 11 of those home runs off left-handers, only 4 of them off right-handers. And Chris, you and I were talking to Matt Stayers, the new hitting coach here. He was formerly the hitting coach for Pete McCannon last year in Philadelphia, and Villanueva is one of those guys that's impressed him on this roster.
I think he's impressed everybody who's watched him play. I mean, he's got raw power and and a pretty good idea at the plate. The weakness is for Villanueva is the pitches up in the zone, because he's a guy that, you know, likes to below his belt, number one, but not down around the knees. And right now, when you've got 15 home runs, you're second in the National League in that department. I mean, you're doing something right.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Mahle delivers. It's fouled off. Mahle tonight allowed a base hit to Jankowski in the first, hits to Villanueva and Hunter Renfroe in the second, and has been staked to a 4-0 lead as we go to the bottom of 4. Villanueva in the dirt.
You know, it tells you this kid has power. He's got 9 home runs here in Petco Park. Now, Petco Park not as hard as it used to be to hit a home run, but still, you don't get any cheapies here at all. And he's tied for the league lead in that department, home runs at home, with Bryce Harper and Trevor Story.
This one hits solidly to center. Back is Hamilton at the warning track. He'll haul it in.
That's a home run in a lot of ballparks, including Cincinnati.
You know, you say this is not the same park as it used to be, and a lot of reasons for that. When this park first opened, first of all, the fences were farther back. They've moved them in a couple of times, as much as 13 feet in some parts of the ballpark. But secondarily, Chris, the big scoreboard in left, all the buildings around the downtown area, it's changed not just the dimensions, but it's changed the atmosphere in this ballpark for home run hitters.
The wind, mainly. The wind would keep the ball in the ballpark, especially the bombs you hit the left center field. But it's still a heavy marine layer for a lot of the season, especially as the deeper you get into the night, the heavier the air is. And very much like Dodger Stadium, the less the ball travels.
And it does play differently daytime to nighttime. One away here. Spangenberg struck out first time up.
It'll be an early game here tomorrow. What, a 5:40 start? San Diego time. And of course a day game on Sunday.
And a late day game, as we talked about. It's a 3:10 start due to the race in downtown San Diego. The rock and roll marathon.
We may have to bring an extra Kool-Aid or something for Jim Day after running that race. He'll be mighty tired.
He was out running today, or was that last night? One ball, two strikes to Spangenberg, the second baseman. Reds have not had much success here in San Diego, so they're trying to get off to a good start in this 3-game weekend series. Swing and a miss. Spangenberg strikes out for the second time.
Second time he chased the same pitch.
And that's 4 strikeouts for Malley. Chris, I mean, you made your living pitching, and you can look at stuff, look at velocity, look at movement, all impressive, but you look at demeanor too when you evaluate a pitcher, and you watch a Castillo, a Malley, you see something there that you don't see in other pitchers.
It's hard to describe. I mean, people do say that it's like, a big league presence, or he carries himself like a big leaguer, or, there's just something about the guy. And that's what you would say about Tyler Mahle, no question about it. Part of it could be he's very quiet, doesn't talk a lot, but I think he's got a great sense of humor. When he does talk, he's very, very intelligent kid.
We've only seen him a couple of times, and we'll see him tomorrow, of course. Matt Harvey, how do you evaluate what you've seen from him so far in a Reds uniform?
Well, good and bad. I mean, I thought he was making some progress. I think the Coors Field can get to anybody, and I think it may have gotten to him his last time out.
Here's Hunter Renfroe. That's down and away.
I like the arm strength that Harvey has shown, and he's an interesting guy to talk to as well. And had quite a good conversation with him about his arm health and how it's coming along and how he feels the ball better now than he has in a long time. I expect Harvey to get better and better and have a good game tomorrow.
It's a 1-2-3 inning. The second 1-2-3 inning for Mahle tonight. He leads 4-0. Francisco Lindor. And the Indians, who have won 6 straight, are in Minnesota. Face Brian Dozier and the Twins. Coverage starts at 3:30 with a first pitch at 4 on FS1 and streaming on Fox Sports Go. Indians and the Twins. Indians trying to get through a rough stretch for their bullpen, but boy, they've had Francisco. What a month he had. First player since 1920 to have 2 games at 4+ extra base hits, including 2 home runs in the same month. Here's Scooter, speaking of a great month of May. And a couple of other notes that you see there to go back to. Number 1, Clayton Kershaw. He came back, made his first start yesterday, and then the back tightened up on him. Big swing by Scooter. Fly ball center field. Going back, looking up Jankowski. It's going to be gone. Jankowski reached up, couldn't glove it, and Scooter Gennett starts June the same way he ended May. Unbelievable. This park may be tougher to hit home runs in, but the way Scooter's going, he's got Superman kind of power this year. For Scooter Gennett, that's home run number 11. He doesn't miss a beat on the new month. Another look at a big time swing from the second baseman for the Reds. I mean, just like Renfroe's ball started to die and Villanueva's ball started to die, this one just kept carrying for Scooter, and the home run gives the Reds a 5-0 lead. Unbelievable, unreal for Scooter Gennett. Number 3 on his back. He's playing like Babe Ruth, and his teammates are showing him that. He takes a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and Chris, amazing, you watch Scooter do it again.
It's amazing how much power he generates. You know, because he's not a big guy, but the bat he swings is a big, heavy bat. And he's got tremendously strong hands and wrists. It's a guy that really believes in himself. And I think that is really one of the biggest differences. You know, I've always liked Scooter Gennett, watching him play for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's always seemed like a scrapper, you know, the first guy in the ball club to get his uniform dirty, that type of player. But I think we're seeing a different side of him the last couple of years because of confidence. I mean, it's always interesting to watch a guy in batting practice who's going really great. You know, because if you hit a couple balls into the netting, no big deal. You know, if you're not hitting well and you start hitting balls on the ground and in the netting and fouling them off, you know, you start to grip a little bit. You're worried, what's the matter with my swing? Nothing seems to bother Scooter this year. He just kind of happy-go-lucky, and boy, is he riding the big wave.
See the ball hit it, and boy, is he hitting it. And you know, I mean, some players have something to prove. When he was let go by the Brewers, and there's a big swing by Schebler. High pop up into left center field. Jankowski under it. He's got it, and there's 2 away after the ground out by Suarez. I mean, everybody reacts differently, but he reacted in a way internally that he wanted to prove that he was better than what the Milwaukee Brewers thought he was, and boy,
right,
he's shown that.
So consider the conundrum that the Reds find themselves in. You have Scooter Gennett trying to prove himself last year that he can be an everyday player, because when he was picked up, it was to be a backup guy. He takes over the job at second base. This year, he doubles up on what he did last year.
Peraza to right.
Are you considering a long-term contract? Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
We'll talk about that more after this big swing from Scooter. Home run number 11. The Reds lead at 5-0. Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, being brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Downtown San Diego, overlooking the bay. Next to it, Petco Park. Tyler Mahle back on the mound now with a 5-0 lead, facing Rodney Lopez, who struck out first time up. And if you joined us late, Reds took a 1-0 lead in the third. A walk to Billy Hamilton, a stolen base, and a couple of ground outs, and the Reds led it 1-0 in the fourth. A walk to Suarez. Schebler's single, double by Peraza made it 3-0. Single by Barnhart made it 4-0 as Peraza scored. Then the homer by Scooters made it 5-0. Slapped down the left field line, curving towards the corner. It will be foul. No balls, 2 strikes. You know, we went to break in the middle of that conversation, Chris, and you know, it's a big decision. You love what you see Scooter Gennett doing, and in fact Scooter's people at the end of last year did approach the Reds and talked about, let's talk about maybe signing a multi-year deal, and the Reds opted not to at that time. Is that something that you revisit this year? Is it something you wait and see? Fastball on the inside corner, doesn't get the call there, Mahle, and it's 1-2.
It certainly is an interesting conversation, you know, as to, you know, do you have a different perspective of Scooter Gennett this year because he's doing more than what he did last year, in a year in which a lot of people didn't think he could do what he did.
That strikeout, number 4 for Mahle, and there's 1 away.
Well, that's a nice pitch by Mahle after throwing Lopez in that at bat, a fastball that seems to have a second gear. Then you throw a changeup that puts the brakes on.
That 1 away, and here's Freddy Galvis. Maybe you mentioned it earlier, Chris. In the second inning, the game was scoreless. Base hit by Villanueva, base hit by Renfroe. They're at first and third. At the plate is Galvis, and he hit a blistering line drive to right that Scott Schebler got turned around twice on, but somehow got a glove on it. That would have started this game a whole different way.
Sure would have. Boy, 3 really good pitches in a row right there. 2 changeups down and away, a fastball underneath the elbows. They're going to go back down and away again.
2 balls, 2 strikes. And the other part of a team when you rebuild it, and we were talking before the game today. That's a pitch up high with the third base coach for the Padres, Glenn Hoffman. And he said, you know, we're 2 teams that are very similar. We have some good young players. Hoffy, of course, great infielder in his own right, good clubhouse guy. Many years a Dodger third baseman and a manager there for a short period of time, and now longtime third base coach here. He said what you need to do to put it together sometimes is to find some leaders in a clubhouse. That's one of the reasons why they went out to get Eric Hosmer, to help these young people, the young players they have coming up, learn how to be a major leaguer. And that's also part of what the Reds have to do too, to make everything come together. Joey Votto leads, and there's ball 4. Votto leads by the way he plays, and sometimes that vocal leadership is important. Let's go back to our Cincinnati studios for Brian Giesenslaw and an update. Gies. That's remarkable. Thanks, Brian. And of course, Brian and Jeff Pecoro will be back for Reds Live post game to fill you in on what has been a busy day in sports and a busy day certainly in baseball as well. Here's Manuel Margot. Did not start today. Outstanding center fielder for this Padre ball club. He's hitting in the pitcher spot. Padres, like the Reds, have a bevy of young outfielders. Margot has won the center field job. Franchi Cordero, also a center fielder, has been moved to left. And of course, Renfroe and Myers as well. Off the end of the bat, looped into right. That's a base hit. So 1 out walk, now a base hit, and 2 runners are on with 1 away here in the 5th. Back to the top of the order, Jankowski. Another look at this swing.
Boy, all the hits tonight the Padres have been able to get off of Tyler Mahle have been opposite field hits. The first 2 came off fastballs by right-handed hitters. Jankowski hit one opposite field to lead the bottom of the 1st inning off. And now they've got another one in the right field right here, and 2 on and 1 out. That's pretty good hitting.
Teddy Power moved from the, as you've talked about this week, Chris, moving from the bullpen to temporarily be in the Reds dugout as Danny Darwin takes care of family business at home.
Got a graduation, Danny Darwin does.
That's pretty big. Swing and a miss to Jankowski, strike 1. We started to talk earlier about Glenn Hoffman when we came out to say hello to the Padres coaches. He said, "Where's Darwin? Is he here yet?" I said, "No, he's not going to be here. You know, he's got home with the family." He says, "I want to talk to him because my ribs are still sore from when I hit against him in the 80s." There's a bouncer down to 3rd. They'll go to 2nd for 1, and they will not turn 2 this time. High hopping 2-hopper down to Suarez prevents him from unloading rapidly, and with the speedy Jankowski winning, not much of a chance to turn 2 here.
Well, he's left-handed hitter and he gets out of the box very quickly, and even though the Reds got that ball and turned it about as quickly as you can, it shows you how quickly Jankowski can get down the line.
He motors. So it's 1st and 3rd, but now 2 outs, and here's Hosmer. Galvis, who walked, is sitting down at 3rd. Foul down the 3rd base line for strike 1 to Hosmer. Now you had a chance to see Ned Yost earlier this year in spring training, Chris, and Ned Yost will be the first to tell you, you know, that when his club started to come together in Kansas City, it wasn't just the way his players played, it was the way they played together and the team concept and the leadership that they had from different parts. And Hosmer was one of the keys to that leadership quotient in Kansas City.
Yeah, they really had a special chemistry in that clubhouse, and he was a big part of it. Big part of the United States or in the WBC.
One ball, 1 strike. We just had USA baseball meetings in Cary, North Carolina this past week, and when Paul Seiler, the president of USA Baseball, knew that I was coming here to San Diego, he says, "Please, the first thing I want you to do is say hi to Eric Hosmer, because we wouldn't have this trophy." He was pointing to the WBC trophy in the room if it wasn't for Adam Jones and Eric Hosmer.
I think he's right on it.
A lot of unselfish guys brought home the WBC trophy for the United States. Bouncer down to short, gobbled up by Peraza, and he'll get the out. So the Padres will strand 2. They've stranded 5. That's what the Reds have on the board. 5-0 lead.
for heroes. Craig Stamen, Ohio native, 2012 and 2017 Bob Feller Act of Valor Award finalist. He's helped start Defending the Baseline. It's a program that distributes baseball equipment to military children around the world. He's also hosted trips to Petco Park for service personnel and families, providing tickets, food, batting practice passes, and a private meet and greet. The North Star, Ohio, and University of Dayton product, Craig Stamen, giving back.
Now we'll probably see him at least a couple of times this weekend. Craig Stamen is one of the outstanding members of this bullpen, and this Padre bullpen has really helped turn things around. You mentioned they were 15 and 13 in the month of May. A lot of it goes to Stamen and Hand and the end of this bullpen.
Well, it's one of their strong points. There's no question about it. Brad Hand has had one of the best months of any reliever in the National League. And if the Padres have a lead at the end of the game, chances are we'll see him. Right now, the Reds smiling up on top 5-0.
New pitcher for the Padres is Brian Mitchell. He came over in the Yankee deal and was one of those who was penciled in as a possible starter for today. He still may be back in the starting rotation before all is said and done, but he comes in here in inning number 6. Walter Lockett started 3 2/3, 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 strikeouts, 5 walks. Margot stays in the game in center. Jankowski out. Line drive to right. Chasing it is Renfroe. It bounces against the wall. Malley will have 2, and he'll turn and head to third. Tyler Malley will have his second hit of the season and his first triple. That'll get him up off the bench in the Reds dugout, and Malley sitting at third as the leadoff batter reaches here in the 6th. They're going to give him a double and charge an error on the right fielder Renfroe.
Well, he hits it a long way, and I mean, he burns Renfroe with the ball that goes over his head. Let's see Renfroe play that ball out here. Malley's going to go into second, it looks like, and then sees the bobble and ends up cruising into third.
So down already 5-0. The Padres bring the infield in for Billy Hamilton. Billy walked, stole a base, and eventually scored on a couple of ground outs back in the 3rd to give the Reds their first lead 1-0. He struck out in the 4th. Two balls, no strikes. Hamilton ahead in the count here. Mitchell delivers. There's a bouncer to the right side. The runner will hold, and they'll get the first out of the inning.
Well, it's going to take a fly ball deep or a base hit through the infield to score Malley. You know, a lot of times the team will put on, especially when they're ahead and they want to put the foot on the throttle a little bit. They'll put on that contact play, that as soon as a ball is made by contact, you know, the runner at third base is going, but not when you're starting pitchers out there.
Malley appears across the infield. They're in tight on the left side, back halfway on the right side for Jesse Winker, the Reds leadoff hitter. Winker tonight popped up, grounded out, and walked in his 3 plate appearances.
You know, if the Reds can get Winker back going again, I mean, you present a little bit of a difficulty for a right-handed starter when you start the lineup off with Winker, lefty, Barnhart switch hitter, and then Votto and Jeanette. That's a lot for a right-handed pitcher to have to digest, especially early in the ball game.
Mitchell behind to the second straight batter, 2-0. And he gets the call there on the outside corner. Well, one of the reasons why they pulled him from the starting rotation, he made 7 starts for the Padres this year. He was 0-3, ERA over 6, but he had 31 walks in 41 innings, and that
gave up 55 hits.
That's enough to get Andy Green to pull him.
Well, it means you only throw in about 10% of your pitches out of the full windup.
You're used to that, huh?
I was, sure. Takes a skill that you have to acquire. A lot of practice.
You earned it. Bouncer to the right side, but foul. The old Jack Murphy was a little bit different than this ballpark. You had those 17-foot walls, solid cement walls.
Big ballpark.
But Nate Colbert and Dave Winfield still found ways to hit it out, didn't they?
Sure did, yeah.
2-2. A call, strike three. Mitchell has bounced back with the runner sitting on third, gets 2 straight outs. It'll be Tucker Barnhart's job to get the run in.
Pretty good looking pitch right here. He's been all over the place, Mitchell has. He finally throws a real quality pitch. Little comeback 2-seam fastball right at the knees, right on the inside part of the plate.
Here's Barnhart. Tucker knocked in the first run with a ground out and then knocked in 2 more runs with a base hit in the 4th inning. So 3 runs batted in on the day for Tucker. Fastball in on the hands, foul back, 2-1 to the Reds catcher. Well, he found a way to get out of it. With a runner sitting on third, he gets 2 ground outs and a strikeout. Tyler Mahle back to the mound with a 5-0 lead.
I grew up watching Seinfeld. Seen every episode probably 10 to 20 times over. Used to watch late night, and every night I'd go home after a game and turn that on. And getting to meet both of those gentlemen is like a dream come true, and you know, it's something that I was really excited about.
Well, the Seinfeld thing happened at Dodger Stadium. The Letterman thing happened at Great American Ballpark, and it was the same day that I was able to interview David Letterman. And speaking off camera to Dave, he was surprised that Votto went out of his way to say thank you for coming to the game. And Joey met him later on as well. So Cool stuff. It was about a 2-minute conversation. Seinfeld and Letterman on Votto.
JD, I know you won't talk much about it. Chris and I know, of course, that in our discussions with Letterman, he also mentioned how impressed he was to have met you.
Not true. Not true at all. I don't get nervous very often for anything on TV, but that day I was a little frightened to ask him to do an interview.
That was great. Another one of the that goes on your reel, doesn't it?
Oh, I think
you play that every night when you go home.
No, but as far as the interviews I've done over the years, that's probably the top for me.
I'm sure David would say the same thing. Here's Tyler Mahle. Chris, you always said that when you had finally got back to Cincinnati and Joe Nuxhall interviewed you on the postgame show, that was the interview that you'll always remember.
Definitely the highlight of the career, George. I shut out the Reds one night and was on the Joe Nuxhall Star of the Game show as a visiting pitcher. So, and of course, the first thing he asked me about was hitting. So, nothing like the old left-hander.
Nuxie's still with us.
Mally's right around that 100 pitch mark right now. He's been there before. He's thrown over 105 times, so it's not like he's ready to run out of gas, but likely his last inning, especially, I think the Reds would love to see him have a nice easy inning, keep that pitch count under 110 or so.
Well, he's really pitched tonight. He gave up 3 hits in the first 2 innings and has only had 1-1-2-3 inning, clean inning all night long. That was in the 4th. 2 fly balls and a strikeout.
It's kind of funny though. Watch him pitch and then think about the pitch count. And there's nothing different now than there was in the 3rd inning. I mean, he is just as strong. So when teams buy into the pitch count theory of 100 or 110 or a max of 120, whatever that magic number might be, it's all about long-term health rather than him losing it tonight.
Ripped into center field by Jose Pirela. A leadoff hit here in inning number 6 for the Padres. Well, first inning he gave up a hit to Jankowski, got out of it with a double play, and that's the kind of night it's been. Hosmer hits it hard, but 4-6-3 turns that into a double play. And every time he's needed it, he's reached back to come up with exactly what he needed.
Look where those locations of those fastballs that have gone for strikeouts. That last one was a changeup to Rodney Lopez. And a slow walk to the mound now by Jim Riggleman. I guess the leash was a little shorter than I thought.
5 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Past the 100 pitch count is Tyler Mahle. What a great night for him tonight. It'll be a night where he will exit with a 5-0 lead, and Jim Riggleman will call to the bullpen. And while that takes time out, we'll take time out for these messages. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, night over for Tyler Mahle. 5 innings, no runs, 5 hits, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks. The runner on his responsibility. Adam Duvall comes in left field. Winker exits, and the new pitcher for the Reds, finally off the disabled list and contributing out of the bullpen. He's made 4 scoreless appearances since coming off the DL. That's Michael Lorenzen, Chris.
Yeah, I think, Michael Lorenzen and the Reds, Jim Riggleman included, are trying to figure out where Lorenzen fits in that bullpen. I mean, he's a quality reliever. He throws hard. He's got great stuff. But down there, you have a couple of other guys who've got a lot more experience. Jared Hughes and David Hernandez. Amir Garrett is having an emerging season. And, of course, Raisel Iglesias at the very end.
Big swing and a pop-up long run, Jeanette, but he won't get there.
You add it all up, and the bullpen this year is 1,000% better than it has been in any one of the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, finally the Reds went out and got legitimate relievers like Hernandez and Jared Hughes. I mean, the year before last, the one free agent signing the Reds made was Blake Wood as a major league free agent, and all he had done the year before was pitch the entire season in AAA. This year they finally got really good quality relievers out there, and I think it's made a world of difference, because they're all boosting each other up. And here the first guy in the game now is Michael Lorenzen.
Line drive to right, Schebler there. He'll glove it, and the runner will hold at first. And really, I mean, it's the same story as last year. Finnegan, Lorenzen, and DeSclafani all starting the year on the disabled list for the Reds. And by the way, today, DeSclafani threw a bullpen session down at Dayton. The hope is his last outing, he'll be back once again to the major league level. But you get Iglesias back, you get Lorenzen back, you solidify your starting rotation maybe a bit, and your bullpen has gotten better. The Reds bullpen, as you saw in those numbers, has gotten much better. And look, the Padres have turned things around to a plus 500 record in May, and a lot of it had to do with that bullpen. They didn't hit a heck of a lot. Their bullpen is 4th in the league going into the month of June. And the Reds are hopeful of doing that exact same thing. No balls, 1 strike to Corey Spangenberg. And the decision process continues for the Reds with their pitching, Chris. And we talked about it. In fact, it was here. That's a breaking ball on the outside corner. He threads the needle, and Spangenberg strikes out for the 3rd time. Twice swinging, this time looking. That's a first strikeout for Lorenzen.
Been a very frustrating night for Spangenberg. It seems like every time he swings at it, strike 3 up in the zone. This time, Lorenzen just threads the needle on the outside corner.
Man, that's unhittable. 97, not.
Nice, easy delivery, too.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you and I were here, and I'll never, you remember the moments that we spent in San Diego? Here's Renfroe, fouled off, when Aroldis Chapman made his debut. It was a day game here in San Diego, and the place was quiet. It was a packed stadium, and all of a sudden they put up on the board 100, and then 101, and then 101, and all of a sudden everybody in the ballpark was electrified by Aroldis Chapman. And that was still at the time where the Reds were wondering, would he be a starter, would he be a reliever? And the Reds right now have Lorenzen, Amir Garrett, and remember when they signed Iglesias, he was going to be a starter too. You get to the point where after a while you don't go back.
Well, sometimes you do. I mean, sometimes you get a few years in and you figure it out, and then you become a pretty good starter. But I think Michael Lorenzen is a really good example of a guy whose stuff plays up as a reliever even better than it did as a starter. I mean, if you start looking at the numbers starting and relieving, his earned run average as a starter is close to 5.5. Or excuse me, and as a reliever, it's about 2 runs per 9 innings, less than that. The batting average is way higher as a starter than a reliever. And really what you see if you start burying yourself into the numbers is his velocity goes up, as a reliever because you have short bursts of appearances. You don't have to save anything for the second and third time through the order. And the thing about it is that a lot of guys get down to the bullpen and they like it. They like those short bursts. They like being able to kind of pitch every night, but they don't want to have to go out and get, 6 or 7 or 8 innings under their belt and then have to wait 4 or 5 days to go back out there again.
And what's he delivering? 11 straight strikes from Lorenzen out of the bullpen so far here. No balls. Oh, and 2 to Renfroe, a single and a fly ball out for the Padre right fielder. Broken bat, popped up. Here comes Scooter, got it. And that'll do it. So a leadoff base hit, then Lorenzen slams the door. Boy, does he slam the door. And the Reds still lead at 5-0.
Catches May 7th. Adam Duvall, one of the best left fielders in the game, going and robbing former Red Todd Frazier. Pretty play. 15th at San Francisco, Billy Hamilton. Watch him track down. Ball off the bat of Evan Longoria, pulls it off the turf. Vintage Hamilton. 2 beauties there. Moments number 2. Top moment of the month coming up.
Thanks, JD. And a couple more special leather moments for the Reds during the month of May. And here we go. Back to the 7th inning. Joey Votto will lead it off, followed by Scooter and then Eugenio Suarez. Votto skies this one to left field. Margot has it measured at the edge of the warning track. He'll haul it in. Votto 0 for 2 and 2 walks. Let's check in with Jeff Picoro back in Cincinnati. Pick, what's up? Thanks, Pick. Pick and Brian Giesenslaw will be wrapping up on Reds Live postgame when this one's all over. Thanks for joining us, George Grant, Chris Welsh, and of course Jim Day here at Petco Park, the first of 3 for this weekend. Tomorrow it'll be Matt Harvey against Eric Lauer. We'll be on the air at 8:40 Cincinnati time for the first pitch, with Reds Live proceeding at 7:30. At 8 o'clock rather. And here's Scooter. It was just an inning ago. He ripped his 11th home run of the season. That gave the Reds a 5-0 lead on a night where the ball's not carrying. Everything he hits is carrying this year. Scooter 1 for 3. A bounce out to the pitcher, a bounce out to second, and that home run to center.
You get some big guys around baseball. Aaron Judge, for instance. Back in the day, Dom Baylor. You talk about Nate Colbert. They stand there with the bat, and those guys look like they're swinging a toothpick. Scooter Gennett's bat looks like it's 2 sizes too big for him. But yet he wheels that thing and is able to get the barrel on the ball almost every time.
Don Baylor, who of course became a great hitting instructor as well as a manager, was one of those who had the big bat theory. He always believed in using the big bat and let the big bat do its work.
Well, you got to be strong enough to swing it.
Here's Eugenio Suarez, bounced out, walk, bounce out. That's a zipper through the middle of the infield. That'll get a base hit for Suarez. And there's 2 on with 1 out for Scott Schebler.
Well, that's a slider right there, a 90-mile-an-hour slider, maybe a cutter from Mitchell, and Suarez has just turned himself into a really good breaking ball hitter. You know, it's the one thing about, you know, having Votto, Gennett, and Suarez back to back to back. There's no one spot that you can pitch any of those 3 hitters and get them out. They've adapted. They've become pretty good hitters. Of course, Votto the best of all of them.
Here's Schebler. Schebler bounced to the pitcher, singled to keep a rally going in the 4th, and later scored and then flied to center. His biggest contribution on this night, though, is a great defensive play back in the 2nd. A twisting, leaping grab of a line drive off the bat of Freddy Galvis that prevented 2 runs from scoring. That's when the game was scoreless, and it would have given the Padres a 2-0 lead. Rocketed to center. Margot going back, reaching up, got it. Scooter tags at second, on his way to third, and will advance. Nice job by Scooter. At the crack of the bat, he started towards third, then realized this one was going to be catchable. Ran back, tagged up, and it's first and third for the Reds. Good wood from Schebler. So there's 2 away, runners at first and third, and here comes Peraza. Jose tonight singled back in the 2nd inning to stretch his hitting streak to 5 straight. In the 4th, with 2 on, he doubled in 2 runs to make it 3-0 Cincinnati, and then fly to right in the 5th. You know, Chris, now we've had a couple of years to really watch Jose Peraza. You know, there's some hitters that are analytical, like Joey Votto, who, I mean, he is precise in everything he does about his hitting. There are other guys who see the ball and hit it. And I think it becomes pretty evident that's Jose Peraza. Don't confuse him too much with specifics. Just let him go up there, see the ball, and hit it.
Well, I think with Peraza, you know, when his confidence is up, he hits the ball hard. When his confidence wanes a little bit, he plays defensive baseball. That goes for in the field as well as at the plate. And I think the more he plays, the better he plays, the better he'll be. I think the big thing for Jose is just to keep him out of that, you know, prolonged slump, whether it's a defensive slump or an offensive slump.
2 balls, 1 strike to the Red shortstop, first and third with 2 away. Line drive right. That's going to drop for a hit. Here comes Scooter. He scores. The throw going to third will be wide, and it'll be off the screen, giving the Reds a chance to pick up another run, and safe as Suarez scores under the throw of Villanueva to the catcher Lopez. They're looking at the bench to see if the Padres will challenge. Take a look.
Well, again, it all starts with the hitting of Jose Peraza as he slices his ball into right field. 3rd knock of the night, and the ball gets by the third baseman. The pitcher's backing up, but he's backing up the wrong spot there. And the play at the plate looks like Suarez beats the tag. Oh, yeah.
The foot on the plate before the tag gets near him. So Renfroe will be charged with his 2nd error of the night. It'll be a single and an error on the throw from Renfroe. So Renfroe charged with his 2nd miscue of the night. The Reds put 2 more on the board and now lead it 7-0. And they will challenge. So Peraza comes up with another key hit. He'll get another look. That doesn't look like he gets him until that right foot touched the plate first, and then he gets tagged on the back of the leg. All Nauert right there to make the call. And they're talking back to New York. Good reaction by Suarez to bounce up and head to the plate. So Eugenio Suarez in the middle of it again here tonight. Doubled in 2 in the 4th, and this single will score 1. Another one scores on the air as it stands now, 7-0, unless that call is overturned. Safe is the call. Suarez scores to make it 7-0. The call stands. And the Reds lead it 7-0. Renfroe with a powerful right arm. It's charged with 2 errors tonight. One, a bobble in right field on the warning track, and this one, an errant throw down at third. His first 2 errors of this season. He had 9 errors last year in 120 games. And here's Adam Duvall, who comes up for the first time in Tyler Mahle's spot, the 8th spot in the lineup.
You know, that just goes to show you the errors on outfielders. If you just look at the column and trying to decide whether an outfielder is a good defender or not, and all you look at the error column, it has nothing to do with that, because that was a good throw. It just happened to be there at the same time that the runner did. It gets caught up with the third baseman. All of a sudden there's nobody behind to back up, and the outfielder 250 feet away gets charged with the error.
1-0 to Duvall. Bounce down to Hosmer. He'll tap the bag, but the damage done. The Reds play add-on 2 more, and they lead it 7-0 in the middle of the 7th in San Diego. Month of May and a home run tonight, and on Saturday, June the 9th, be one of the first 20,000 fans through the gates to receive a Scooter Jeanette bobblehead presented by Dynergy Energy Services. See your Reds take on the Cardinals for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. And you know, Chris, you talk about a lot of things. We've talked about his baseball abilities. There's a big swing from Rodney Lopez, fouled off to the left side. Last year, it was the day before the Reds Community Fund game when Scooter had the 4 home run game. And, you know, you think somebody would be full of themselves the next day. And what did he say that night? I mean, I'll never forget it. He said, you know, what can I do to maximize this for the Reds Community Fund? Charlie Frank went to him and talked to him the next day. He and Phil Castellini talked to him. He said, anything you want me to do, let's find a way to do it. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, that's Scooter. That's you can talk about numbers or whatever, but it's the human element, and he helped make last year's Community Fund game something very special. Lopez doesn't even realize the ball kicked away. Now he'll be thrown out down at first. So it's a strikeout and a 2-3 putout. Lopez retired for the first out of the 7th inning. Now he swings at this and he turns away immediately. Doesn't realize the ball is kicked away. And now he tries to run to first. By that time, Barnhart has the ball down to first and he's retired. That's the second strikeout for Lorenzen.
Out of 4 batters faced. That's the first pitch that he has thrown that has been out of 16 that has not been in the strike zone.
There's Freddy Galvis. Galvis lined out on a spectacular catch by Schebler in the 2nd and walked in the 5th. 7 runs, 8 hits, no errors, 7 left for the Reds. No runs, 5 hits, 2 errors, 6 left for the Padres.
I'll tell you, the delivery of Michael Lorenzen, it looks entirely different now than it did down in spring training. And he came up with a bad arm at the end of spring, got put on the disabled list. I mean, it looks just nice and easy right now. It looked down there that he was spinning off to the right. He got very rotational in his delivery. I mean, it looks like he's playing catch. And that's what you're always trying to do as a pitcher, to look effortless. You can last a lot longer that way.
2 balls, 2 strikes. And that's a call, strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts. 3 of the 4 he's faced. 3 of the 5 he's faced. Strikeouts. Here's another look.
Yeah. Mid to high 90s on a fastball with a little action. Here's the delivery. Nice and smooth.
And you look for different things. You talked about Malley earlier, Chris, and the Reds Brain Trust is huddling this weekend back in Cincinnati. Chris Buckley, Paul Pearson, all the scouts huddling, getting prepared for Monday's draft. And when you see somebody like a Michael Lorenzen, there's Suarez scooping, off balance throw, and that takes care of it. You look for something special in an athlete. The Reds have that in Lorenzen. They'll be drafted on Monday, 5th. happy recap for the Reds as they continue to lead it here. Brian Mitchell stays in the game. Mitchell came in the 6th inning, allowed the 2 runs in the 7th, and we go to work here in the top of 8. Billy Hamilton got the Reds on the board in the 3rd with a walk, a stolen base, and then 2 ground outs scored him. He struck out and grounded out his other 2 plate appearances. And Chris, we started to talk about at the end of the inning the Reds draft. It'll be on Monday. They'll draft 5th, then 47th, then number 72. And you know that in any given year, the Reds' philosophy has been to take the best player available. We always hear that. And when you add up what they've gotten in recent years, Hunter Green coming into his own with an outstanding young potential either pitcher or position player. The Reds are, of course, using him as a pitcher. And the indications are that most of the draft top of the list players this year are pitchers again at the top of the list. You draft another pitcher, you go for a hitter. Nick Senzel, of course, on the threshold of a strong AAA year health-wise. If he accomplishes all he is expected to accomplish, will be part of the Reds' future offensively. You go back to a hitter, you draft another pitcher.
Well, you know, the good thing about the draft is you're not limited to just one pick. And although when you do pick as high as the Reds have picked over the last few years, you get the cream of the crop. I mean, you're getting some very good players, and those players should be tough to miss on as long as they stay healthy. But there are other ones that are in there, you know, that are more diamonds in the rough that you hope that you're able to get an edge over maybe the other ball clubs because of something that you're looking at that other teams might not be.
Nice play by Hosmer and a nice play by Mitchell too. They get Lorenzen on the bouncer to the first baseman. 3-1 is the putout. And you know, of course, Lorenzen's story. He was an outfielder as well as a closer in his years at Cal State Fullerton, and Mitchell just does finally get the outside of the foot on the bag. And he bought into the idea of pitching from the beginning. And the other question is, he's always said and told the Reds he'd like to have one more chance to try to be a starter again. We'll see what happens next spring. And this year, the physical problems he had really precluded him from doing that. Here's Tucker, big swing to right field. It'll stay in the park though. Under it is Renfroe. Got it. That's a clean 1-2-3 for Lorenzen, for Mitchell rather, and the Reds go back to work leading 7-0. Tyler Mahle, good night for him. 5 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks. He was outstanding on this night, Chris. He exits with a 5-0 lead. The Reds now lead at 7-0. A lot of that thanks to Jose Peraza. He doubled in a couple, then singled in another. 3 runs batted in on the night for Jose Peraza. Big swings from Peraza, and also the bullpen did what it's been doing of late. Backed up by a big swing by Scooter Gennett. Scooter's 11th home run of the year, a towering shot over the center field wall, and the Reds have a 7-0 lead. 7 runs, 8 hits, no errors, 7 left for Cincinnati. No runs, 5 hits, 2 errors, 6 left for the San Diego Padres. Lorenzen goes back to work as we go to the bottom of inning number 8, and your report card on Tyler Mahle tonight, Chris.
Oh, Mahle, I mean, you go 6 innings and you don't give up any runs, or almost 6 innings, and he did a good job. Really solid after walking 4 batters his last time out. He was in control, and you know, this is what you expect out of Mahle. I really believe that the young man is going to be a really solid, rock solid major league starter. He's the youngest starting pitcher of all that the Reds have out there, and a guy that's got a great future.
Well, Mitchell hitting for himself here in the 8th. Strikes out. There's out number 1 in the bottom of 8. And here's the first baseman, Eric Hosmer. Now the Reds, with the back of this bullpen when it is right and when it is healthy, has been outstanding, and 18-1 with leading after 7 innings this year, and they're back at full strength with Iglesias back. Scooter scoops 2 away. Lorenzen's had 4 good appearances since coming back, Chris. So far tonight, this may be his best appearance.
Well, you know what I really like, and we were talking about his delivery, George. He doesn't have that recoil look that he did earlier in spring training when he would let loose the baseball almost standing straight up with no follow through at all, and then kind of bring his whole arm and body back, almost like you do when you're playing darts. And it's a much smoother follow through. It's still not as bent over as he may end up eventually get, but he's under control, keeping his head very still, and all that's evident by how many strikes he's throwing.
The old Ray Miller adage, work fast, throw strikes, change speeds for Michael Lorenzen. 26 strikes and 2 balls.
I mean, making it look so easy right now. I mean, it's like he's pitching against a junior varsity.
Perella tonight flied out, bounced out, and singled to center. Popped up right side. Scooter calling everybody off, squeezes it. Boy, outstanding. Lorenzen came in to get 3 straight outs in the 6th, 3 straight in the 7th, and 3 straight in the 8th. Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Reds going places on this second West Coast swing. Denver, then Phoenix, and now San Diego, trying to take game number 1 of this 3-game weekend series. Here's Joey Votto. 0 for 2 and 2 walks for the Reds first baseman. Mitchell in his 4th inning of work. He took over after Walter Lockett went 3 2/3, 4 hits, 4 runs. He walked 5, got himself into trouble. Erlin cleaned up the remainder of the 5th inning, and then Mitchell took over after that. Joey's 7-game hitting streak on the line, 0 for 2 here in the top of the 9th. That's a strike, 3-0. Well, maybe that day off in San Diego recharged the batteries for this Reds ball club. Very often you get a day off in a rainy town, and that's the 3rd walk for Votto on this day. So the hit streak probably will end, but he's got 3 walks, on base again. Hey, make Great American Ballpark your family day destination on Sunday, June the 10th. Thanks to Clasterman Baking, you can get half-price Reds tickets, enjoy live mascot races, free face painters, and a whole lot more. Kids 14 and younger will receive a Reds mascot fathead thanks to Sprint. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Brandon Dixon will come in and pinch run for Joey. Blandino, Dixon, and if you joined us late, Kurt Casale on the bench for the Reds tonight. There's a bouncer down to second, and that'll turn into 2. So the base runner erased as Scooter, who earlier hit his 11th homer of the season, now 1 for 4 and a walk on the night.
You know, when you're up by 7, George, in the 9th inning, you know you call that guy? Team man.
Team. Always talking hitting, huh? You want to talk hitting with Joey, you'll do it all night long. And down long the
except
hitting coach.
the David Letterman.
Yeah. Two away, and here's Suarez. A Eugenio tonight bounced out, walked and scored in the 4th, bounced out in the 5th, and singled in the 7th. Great to have you with us here at Petco Park. George Grant, Chris Welch, Jim Day coming up. Jeff Pecoro, Brian Giesenslow will wrap things up. Josh Hall, our producer. Brian Filippetti, Jim Mueller, Matt Sigafus, all dialing up some highlights and giving you graphic support. And our great crew here in San Diego, they always treat us so well, always great to come to town. For you, it's returning to the scene of the crime, Chris.
Long time ago. Statute of limitations over.
You enjoyed your time here, though, didn't you?
Who wouldn't?
Yep.
Great place to play. They're in a tough spot, though. I mean, you know, this is an interesting market, even though it's the 8th biggest city in the country now. It's a tough market to get baseball going down here, where they can spend the kind of money that their northern neighbor, the Dodgers, can.
And so far, the Reds got it going 7-0.
the news with his bat, but how about his glove in the month of May? Back on the 16th, an unbelievable catch over Scott Schebler, and he went a mile and a half to get that one. Wasn't done on the 18th. Check out this barehanded play. Off-balance throw, well, won't be able to see it, but Scooter Gennett flashing the leather in the month as well as a red hot bat. Here's that last play. Beauty. He's gotten better defensively, boys.
Part of that, JD, is the shoulder feels a little bit better too. I mean, you watched him, and we all watched him at the start of the year when he labored with that shoulder. He's learned how to manage his throws from second, and also certainly the time off really gave him a chance to recharge the batteries with that shoulder, huh? Villanueva retired, and the Reds, one thing they've done tonight is hold the power hitting third baseman down. He has a single, but 0 for 3 after that. Here's Spangenberg. 3 strikeouts on the night. Lorenzen has been just spectacular since coming on. He came on after a leadoff hit by Perella in the 6th. 1-2-3. And then in the 7th, a 1-2-3. In the 8th, a 1-2-3. All told, 4 strikeouts. And he gets the second out here in the 9th. And don't forget, get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before every game on Fox Sports Ohio with all the info you need for that game and every game with Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Now, just the way you drew it up this afternoon, Chris, a good start by Tyler Mahle, 5 innings, 5 hits, no runs. And then the bullpen took over with some help from the offense. And Lorenzen's putting an exclamation point on this night with a Red 7-0 lead.
Really a solid game by this ball club. I think they were happy to get out of Arizona and happy to get out of Denver too. Those two teams are really putting some offense on the board. Reds were able to win the last game of each of those 2 3-game series, and they come in here and they're take command of the very first game. That makes it a lot easier now the next couple of ball games. You still can salvage a very good road trip, a decent road trip anyway.
Jim Riggleman, who of course managed here from 92 through 94. So for him, in some respects, it's returning home. He took over as an interim manager, then got the job, and next to Pat Kelly, his new bench coach. This one rifled into center over his Hamilton. It'll get past him all the way to the wall. Renfroe rounds first, goes to second, and will slam on the brakes there. Renfroe's second hit. He's 2 for 4. A runner sitting at second. And just like we promised you, it's time for Miller Lite Hold True moment. Maybe the turning point of the ball game. Scoreless game. 2 runners on, and this catch by Scott Schebler prevented both runners from scoring, Chris.
He really twisted and turned and finally was able to grab it. That's the bottom line. Schebler, very good athlete. And I said at the time it could be a very key defensive play in this ball game. You never really know what happens if that ball falls in. A couple of runs come around.
So a double for Renfroe. He's sitting at second, and here's Lopez. Raffy, 3 strikeouts on the night. Tomorrow, Matt Harvey goes for the Reds, trying to win his second against Eric Lauer. Reds live at 8 o'clock. The game will follow at 8:40. And then on Sunday, Luis Castillo against Tyson Ross. Reds live at 5:30. The game at 6:10. So 2 odd starting times. We talked about how these 2 teams played better in May. The Reds 13-15 in May, and the Padres 15-13. But you dissect that a little more, and since the 8th of May, the Reds are now 3 games over 500 at 13-10. 3 balls, 1 strike to the Padre catcher. Freddy Galvis on deck. So after the double, Lorenzen, a little out of whack, walks Lopez, and 2 outs, 2 on, and here comes Freddy Galvis. More pitches than Lorenzen has thrown to this date since coming back. Now his 44th pitch coming here. Floro starting to loosen. Dylan Floro in the bullpen, and out comes Teddy Power to check in with his right-hander.
I'll tell you, Teddy Power, one of those guys really kind of overlooked as a very solid pitching coach. Spent a long time down at AAA with the pitching coach as a pitching coach for the Bats down there, and you know, he's been up here in the bullpen the last couple of years. And when you're in the bullpen, you're kind of the forgotten guy, but you still have a lot of solid and important responsibilities. And he's worked with Lorenzen a lot, and just trying to give him a little breather, and probably came out there to tell him a joke.
Looked like he said, "Hey, what's going on out here?" You know, he'd loosen him up.
I mean, Teddy has done so much as a pitcher in his career.
Yeah.
He was a good one.
So here's Galvis. He was robbed of that extra base hit on the catch by Schebler in the 2nd. He walked in the 5th and struck out in the 7th. Two on, 2 out. Lorenzen trying to close the door here in the 9th. Popped up left side, heading to the seats, and it'll be out of play. Cubs beat the Mets 7-4. Atlanta beat Washington 4-0. Pirates beat the Cardinals 4-0. The Dodgers defeated Colorado 11-8. And Arizona has beaten Miami the final 9-1. No balls, 2 strikes to Galvis. Into center field. Hamilton back, looking up at the wall. It's off his glove and off the wall. 2 runs are going to score. And down is Hamilton. Here comes the throw into, and Billy still hasn't gotten up. The throw into the infield. Both runners will score. And Billy is slow to get up in center field. It looked like the ball first hit off the glove and then he hit the wall. Is the shoulder okay? That's the first thing you think of. Steve Ballman, the Reds trainer, on his way out there.
He's grabbing his shoulder right there, his left shoulder, right around the collarbone area. And he's having a hard time standing up and being comfortable. We'll take another look at it. At first I thought he may have just knocked the wind out of himself. But when he recovered and flipped the ball to Schebler, hits it with his left arm and his shoulder right there. He flips the ball to Schebler, and he doesn't get up from there.
Right there, the jam, and then after he reaches out, shovels the ball to Schebler. He's got a bead on it, and it bounces off the glove. It looks as if there is where he jams the shoulder first and then maybe hyperextended it after that even. Oh boy, on a night where so many good things have happened for the Reds, a moment of certainly concern for Jim Riggleman and Steve Ballman. Now he seems to be moving that shoulder okay. And remember, you know, we've seen it over the years, Chris, as he's slammed into walls or made diving catches. He's jammed his shoulder and also twisted his neck on a couple of occasions, making catches like this.
I mean, there's no reason for him to stay in the ball game right now, is there? I mean, if there's any question at all, you got 2 outs in the 9th inning. I mean, you got to get him out of the ball game. I don't care if you put Homer Bailey in there, but he ought to be out of the ball game.
Still left on the bench for the Reds, Alex Blandino. Dixon's in the game at first. And Kurt Casale. Well, looks like he's arguing himself into the lineup. He's come up with some miraculous catches. He went a long way to get a glove on this one, and I mean, he'll tell you when he looks at it that I should have caught it. But boy, did he pay the price after it bounced off his glove. And this is a strange outfield. There's a twist in that wall. You see where he planted against the wall and tried to push off. Take again a look at it. This is real speed, not slow-mo. Take a look and see how far he goes. I mean, he went probably 100 feet to get there. And really, if he doesn't shovel it off to Schebler, there's a good chance that Galvis probably scores too. So 2-run score. Galvis will be credited with a triple. And Billy's still trying to shake off the effects of that collision with the wall. Well, Lorenzen stays in, and here's Margot. Margot hitting in the 9th spot, singled his first time up and then bounced out his second time up in the 7th inning. Dribbler down to short. Peraza hustles and gets it over to Dixon, and that'll do it. And Billy still moving that neck and moving that shoulder around, appears to be okay. That's the good news. And the good news on the scoreboard for the Reds, a 7-2 victory for Cincinnati. 7 runs, 8 hits, no errors, 7 left. For the Padres, 2 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors, and 7 left on. Tyler Mahle outstanding on this night, Chris.
He really was outstanding. Got terrific relief